Hello people of BookTube, Megan here, and time for another book review. Today, I'm going to be talking about Abandon by Meg Cabot, and this is book 1 in the Abandon trilogy. So, this is kind of a reimagining slash retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. I don't know why, just lately I've been in a serious mood for a Persephone and Hades retelling, probably because we are going from fall to winter, and just, it fits the mood right now. Oh my god, where am I going to start with the synopsis? So, our main character's name is Pierce. She is moving to the island her mother grew up with just her mother. Her mother and her father just had this horrible divorce revolving around an incident that resulted in Pierce dying and then being brought back. And poor Pierce is nervous because, new start, and also by the fact that a guy she was hoping to not see again resides on that island in a way. So when Pierce died, she was brought to the underworld, or she found herself in the underworld would probably be a better description. And she met or re-met, I'm not going to go into details for that because don't want to break down every little detail, want to leave some surprises. She met, re-met, however you want to phrase it, the ruler of that underworld, John. And being as she was only 15, she didn't want to be dead. She wanted to at least go see her mother, so she had to escape John and the underworld. She was brought back, and in that time between her dying and being brought back and going to live with her mother on her home island, ran into John a few times. Not the best encounters. So she's a little afraid of him, understandably, and so going to an island, which is where she met John originally, like I said, I'm not going to go into details because I want to leave some surprises, she is nervous about running into him, them kind of being on the same turf, so to speak, and most of this book, at least, is kind of coming to terms with stuff that's happened, coming to terms with having to live on this island with John, her having to get through some consequences for some things that happened back before they moved to this island. And there's quite a bit going on. I'm not quite sure how to phrase things without just outright saying everything. So I'm very, very sorry if the synopsis is kind of wonky and mismatched and just weird, for lack of better words. But yeah, as a retelling, I found myself entertained. There are times where Pierce could be a little frustrating, where she could come off as a little bland, but that didn't take away from the story at all for me personally. It also very well could do with my age. I am a 29-year-old woman reading a young adult book, so that could be a thing in the matter too. Regardless, I did enjoy it. I very much look forward to reading the next book in this series. I will say there is kind of how the part of this book is set up, like, most of it takes place in the present. But we do get some flashbacks of, like, Pierce meeting John, her re-meeting him, the whole situation involving her death, her run-ins with John since her death. So there is, some jumping back and forth from the past and the present. There was one book that did kind of something similar to it in the past that I read, and I was kind of about. For some reason in this one, I didn't mind it so much. I don't know why, but it didn't really bother me. But if that is something that kind of bothers you, maybe this might not be the book for you, but I did enjoy it. And I'm just gonna put this book down now because my arm is getting tired and it's like really throwing off the lighting, at least in my viewfinder. So I think those are the two main things that I feel safe putting in the non-spoilery bits that I felt the need to comment on, so I am sorry that this part is so short. I am going to be going into a more spoilery bit now, so if you do not wish to be spoiled, I highly suggest you click away now and come back after you read the book. So, this is probably one of the biggest issues I have with the book. When John re-met Pierce, she was 15 and he is about 19-ish. Pierce describes his age as around 18, 19 years old. That's a 4 years age difference. John having some form of feelings towards a 15-year-old kind of creeped me out, kind of sketched me out a little bit as an adult. wasn't a big fan about that. Even though nothing happened, just with the way he looked at her, the way Pierce described situations, the fact that he gave the Persephone diamond to Pierce, which is something a death deity gives his chosen consort, however you say the word. Yeah, I was a little icky. Felt a little icky with that. And I know, there's a huge, 2-year span between, her dying and then her going back to the island and, really having actual conversation with him. 2 years difference, she's 17. Little less icky, but given, the whole circumstances of when she was 15, still a little icky. I understand that he is definitely from a different time period. Yes, John is definitely much older than 19, which I kind of have mixed feelings as an adult about, these huge age gaps now. In fantasy, high fantasy, in some situations, it's a little different, especially if the main character is an adult, or if it's, supposedly set in, a older time period. It's still kind of to me, but I can suspend my disbelief and, ick a little bit, because, unfortunately, time period. But when it's set in, present day and, reality, it's kind of harder for me to suspend my ick sense, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm just rambling and nonsense right now, but there's that. That was kind of, my biggest with the book, despite the fact that I still enjoyed it. That was always in the back of my mind. I did like Meg Cabot's imagining of this. It was entertaining, it was a fun, easy read, and I do like the little mythology she has set up, how there could be potentially several gateways to the underworld, because the world's population has definitely expanded since, ancient Greek times, and that's a lot of souls to process. Not an easy job for just one person, being a god or not. So the idea of there being multiple entrances to the underworld, all manned by a different death deity, I can get on board with that. I can definitely get on board with that. A very interesting take, and I like that. I even like the idea that these death deities didn't necessarily start out as human. Because, as Mr. Smith pointed out, John started off as a human man. And events have happened that made him a death deity after his death. And while John could be rude and jerkish, I felt sympathy for him. Here he is, doing this job that a lot of people probably wouldn't like. I know I'd probably get sick of sorting these souls of the dead, having to deal with people trying to bribe and make me feel pity for them to get them where they want to go, to bring them back to life, what have you. People who were rude and just, as someone who's worked in customer service, I can only imagine how horrible it would be to be a death deity. It definitely seems like a very thankless job. And given that there are beings out there, the Furies, who are trying to make his life more miserable, I can understand the attitude problem a bit. Even if he had this attitude as a human, I can definitely sympathize for that attitude just getting worse. So yeah, I did feel sympathy for him. And though I definitely do not blame Pierce for not wanting to spend the afterlife at the age of 15 with him in the underworld, definitely understand her wanting to run away. I would definitely do the same thing in her case. I felt bad because he seemed happy that he wouldn't be alone. And then especially seeing the hope and surprise that she kept the Persephone diamond, and then even after finding out the history of the diamond and everything, her still wanting to wear it, and just when he had those moments, it definitely made me feel for the guy. To talk about some of the other characters, Alex, I try to feel sympathy for him. He has not had an easy hand. He grew up with his father in jail, only really seeing him much recently. His grandma doesn't seem like the best person to be around. His mom, not in the picture. Growing up kind of poor, probably getting bullied beyond all belief. I definitely felt some sympathy for that, but this kid still has like such a chip on his shoulder. It honestly did get to a point where I'm just like, I don't think I'm really liking you that much, Alex. Sympathy or no. Just his character made it so difficult for me to keep sympathy for him and just not outright hate him after a while. Like, I understood where this aggression and these issues were coming from, but at the same time, it's like, dude, calm down. Especially when he was getting mad at Pierce for, like, merely talking to, like, Seth and his gang. It's like, dude, how is she supposed to know, like, the full history if you aren't outright telling her? How is she supposed to know every single person that you might have beef with if you don't say anything? Like, you can't just say, oh, it's because, we're in two different leagues or whatever, like, him being not so well off, them being well off. If there's more to it than that, which I'm pretty sure there is, you can't expect her to just automatically know. Just there are definitely times where he was an ass. Seth and his gang, I honestly felt like I lost some brain cells when I was reading them. They felt like very stereotypical, though not to the points where it's just like, I can't read this. Still enjoyed the book. Honestly, in high school, I didn't know people like that. I didn't associate with people like that, but I knew of people like that. So it's, a little like, some stereotype there. It doesn't feel unfounded. But yeah, Seth and his crew, definitely people that I would not like in high school. And I would not mind seeing them knock down a couple pegs. Especially when it's like they weren't even trying to hide the fact that they were trying to use Pierce. And then add to the fact that some of them were like openly insulting her, being like, D-Wing, to her face. Or close enough to her face where it's just like, you're trying to use her for your own means, and here you are insulting her. You guys aren't the sharpest tools in the box. Oh, I do like how Pierce is outright like, why for Coffin Night? Like, what's the point? What is the point of this? It's stupid. Why would you be humiliated if the junior class found the coffin and set it on fire? Like, it's a coffin. Not even like a real coffin. It's some wood you threw together. What's the deal, my dude? So I do like how instead of it being like this big thing that awes everyone, that at least Pierce is like, why? So honestly, when I was reading it, that was my first thought. It's like, what's the point? And what's the big deal if you don't get the coffin found? If you keep it safe? Like, okay, you kept the pile of wood safe. Uncle Chris has like a place in my heart. Just, I want to give this man a hug. I want to know what the hell put him in prison. Like, I feel it would have to be bad, considering he was in prison for a long time. Most of Alex's life. But he just seems like this awkward, like, guy. So, I want to know how. Like, this dude doesn't seem like he'd hurt a fly. And the fact that he was framed for Jade's murder, I'm just like, I understand that murderers come in, like, every form and whatnot. But it's like, just because he went to prison once. And yeah, they supposedly have some evidence on him. Have you seen the guy? He honestly seems like this awkward giant teddy bear. Just, I don't know. I love true crime, but I don't know how things work. Just, I felt so bad for him. And then, like, before he gets arrested, before he's framed, going on about Pierce, how he's gonna help her learn how to drive, and just little inspirational speech he was giving, like, don't let anyone tell you can't do something. Yeah, things may come harder for you than others, like your mom, but don't let anyone tell you you're worthless. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do whatever. You can do it. I will help you. And it's like, I need an uncle like that in my life. I'm not close to any of my uncles, so, you know, the bar is low, but it's like, I need someone like that in my life. Oh my god. Hype man. Just that whole scene, my heart. My poor heart. Mr. Smith I enjoyed, especially when we find out he knows John. He is also someone who experienced a near-death experience. You know, he's kind of like a good little mentor figure. Especially like his optimism and him thinking John is a good guy. He just hasn't had good experiences and what have you. My only issue with his character is just how he constantly seems to talk down about younger people. Like, honestly, what are they teaching you in school these days? It's like, even good school systems don't teach everything, buddy. Calm down. That ending with that cliffhanger, though, oh my god. John taking her back to the underworld to save her and keep her safe. Not the best course of action. I can understand that knee-jerk reaction. Doesn't want to lose her, especially after Jade died, and he almost thought Jade was Pierce at first glance. So I can understand that, like, knee-jerk reaction. Don't approve of his action, but I can understand it. And holy heck, I am curious to see how Pierce manages to return home. Because I highly doubt she spends the next 2 books solely in the underworld. Especially with her uncle likely going to prison again and having told her friend Kayla to call the police if she wasn't there to meet Alex at 2. So, very curious to see how that goes. And you know, the fact that her grandmother's a Fury. Curious to see how that gets itself sorted out. And yeah, it makes me really wonder how long her grandma has been a Fury. Because based on that little, speech she gave, clearly it's been since Pierce's mother was a little girl, if not before she was born. If she was trying to get John's attention and get him attached to someone for that long. It's like, wow, how long has the grandmother not been the grandmother? It's actually kind of sad to think about when you think of it that way. And yeah, I feel I had something else I want to talk about, but I am blanking. So yeah. For anyone still watching, what do you think? Did you enjoy this book? Did you not enjoy this book? Why? Why not? For anyone who has any other Hades Persephone retellings that you want to recommend, let me know, because I am in the mood for them. And yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time.